And SpaceX is a great example. I mentioned that it only grew 6 billion over that 10-year time frame. If it wasn't for SpaceX, there actually would have been a decline in the commercial revenue. Would have fallen. But if you look at it, what happened, it was big, essentially a turnover, even just the last couple of years, where that 6 billion, if it wasn't for Starlink, you wouldn't have seen even that growth.
Well, and that's the thing about SpaceX is SpaceX takes the win out of the room because SpaceX is the win. Because when you take out the number of launches that the U.S. has completed, take SpaceX out of that equation, we are behind China.
Yep.
And I champion that. I say that constantly because I want to hammer home SpaceX success is great, but it's great for SpaceX.
Yep.
And we have to capture the opportunity that SpaceX shows as a community, as an industry. And
right.
That's what makes me wonder though, because I saw something, I wrote about it. I saw that the way SpaceX went, they integrated their vertical value chain to a point where it's not really SpaceX as a space company, but SpaceX as an AI company.
SpaceX AI.
Yeah, and so is it a tech play, and they just happen to operate in space? And if that's the way forward, are we going to see pharmaceuticals do this? Are we going to see other space companies do this? And they're just going. Space becomes a domain, and not necessarily the industry that we think of right now.
Which I think that's actually the great outcome, right? So if it's now an enabler, but it's a key enabler.
Mm-hmm.
The way I think about SpaceX is they got to space, they didn't find some vast commercial market, and so they've been building it with Starlink, starting point, and we'll see if space-based data centers become that next major market that they build.
Yeah,
that's a hard one.
I just want to caution everybody on the idea of space-based data centers. It's not going to look like what you think it is. If it does become, it's definitely not going to be Connex boxes in space.
And that's because of physics.
Yeah, because of physics. Physics is a constraint you can't get around. But there's engineering that you can do. Is it economically viable? We don't know. Maybe the conditions will change. But it doesn't prohibit. It just tells you what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
Because I came off the fence, I said it's going to happen. I hear everybody make a comment. Well, somebody obviously didn't pay attention to physics. Somebody needs to ask my son's an astrophysicist as well. He got his degree he got conferred his degree just recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, out of UNLV. I think his was he come up with a process where you measure the nuclei instead of doing 27,000 cuts, you just do it in one clump, something like that, out of a black hole or something like that. I don't know. I kind of phased out a little bit through his dissertation defense. I'm trying to hang in there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, put some dollar signs in front so I can understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I know we got a good stream of consciousness going here, and I like it. So, but before we start streaming again, Jason, one of our listeners here, has had a question I thought was interesting. He said, "Is SpaceX an isolated situation? Has launch costs actually been reduced, or is it just being temporarily influenced?"
I mean, I would say depends on how you define that. For them, for SpaceX, launch costs are definitely quite a bit lower than elsewhere, and that's part of why why a lot of what they're doing is so viable is they control their own launch stack at a lower cost.
Yeah, they've been doing that they tailored their company that way. They bring in the outside suppliers and make them part of the supply chain so they control costs and I don't know. It's going to be an interesting case study of SpaceX that now that we have the IPO, we can actually get a lot more detail about the company than we ever had openly. And now we can sit down and I'm just kind of curious what this business studies are going to show.
I'm hopeful that ultimately we get a couple other providers going. You start to get that competitive flywheel going, and we start to those launch costs start to be reflected in the way others start to operate as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think Rocket Lab, is working at emulating that same type of stack. And New Glenn, I know Michael's a fan of New Glenn, but not New Glenn, Blue Horizon.
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin, excuse me. But it's getting late. I'm tired. Blue, Blue Origin. But the thing, here's the deal about Blue Origin. Amazon is Amazon. Blue Origin is a pet project.
Yep.
And whereas SpaceX wasn't a pet project, it was the project.
That exactly. And they, they've done great things in terms of transforming it. I mean, they really have made it possible, with the transporter missions that opened up space for a lot of the smaller satellite plays. Heck, I'm aware of folks putting together the CubeSats in high schools. Yeah. So, and you're getting that talent. And that's what I think is ultimately, we've now had a bunch of new SpaceX millionaires and a few billionaires formed. They're going to be spreading out and bringing that thinking and expertise to other companies. Yep. And I think we'll see a lot of evolution in that over time. And ultimately, there's a lot of what I'm hoping like Orbital Progress can do is a lot about sort of monitoring where these markets are forming. What are some of the signals that these are actually going to be real consumer-driven markets as opposed to simply government funding a new line of activity repeatedly, and doing that measurement and really sort of saying, how do we encourage that growth? How do we sort of make sure that both the buyers and the suppliers are structuring their activity to really drive that market growth as opposed to simply supporting the latest sort of government mission? So market's not mission, not capability. Exactly. So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant.